Hello and welcome. This is Pankaj Dubey, and in this session, we are going to use some most basic commands of Selenium to get our basics clear. And just quickly, we'll recap that what we did in our last session. So, in last session, we created a class setup class, and there we used NUnit. We installed the NUnit framework. And for that we are using the NUnit 3.0. So to install it, what we did, just right clicked on the solution explorer in your project, and here you find an option of manage NuGet packages for solution. Click over it and you'll see there are some there is a new form, and here you can search it for NUnit 3.0 because that is the most recent one, while there were some issues with the NUnit 3.0. so now they have introduced 3.0.1, which is the most stable one and new one. So you'll find NUnit 3.0 once you click on online and all. So just it's just that you will have to install it here, and after that you'll have to go to tools, and here click over extension and updates, and here you will have to go inside the online and then Visual Studio Gallery and search for the NUnit test adapter, and you will have to install it. Okay, so as soon as you install NUnit test adapter, that means whenever you create any class using the NUnit test framework that you have installed from here, and then it will be able to run that. So because we have installed NUnit 3.0.1 and manage NuGet package, so here you will have to run the test adapter of NUnit 3.0. okay, because there is two NUnit test adapters, and if you are using 2.0, then you won't be able to run your NUnit test cases. Okay, and then what we did, we created our class in class, and we labeled it with test fixture attribute. This attribute is to recognize this class as a test class, because there are some certain frame of this class. There will be a certain frame that you need to follow. Okay, so what we did, we created iWeb driver instance as a global inside class body, so that we can use the same driver inside all our methods. Okay, because if you're creating your driver inside this method, then you won't be able to use that driver inside the other method. Okay, so we created an instance of iWeb driver here, which is the most basic one, and you will have to first initialize the driver to start your automation project in Selenium. And then we created another method, Selenium, and we marked it as setup attribute. Setup attribute something, if you are labeling any method with setup attribute, that means this method will be executed before your test methods in the class. Okay, so there may be multiple test methods inside your class, but it's most preferable is to keep only one setup class into your one test class. Okay, so inside setup method, what we did, we initialize the driver with the new Firefox driver. That means this line of code will launch a browser, and in next step, what we did, we wrote a code to maximize the browser window. Okay, because once this code launches the browser, it opens in a specific size. It doesn't open it in full screen. So this command will it will do, it will open it into the full screen. And in the test attribute method, what we did, we tried to navigate to a particular browser. That's what we did, because that was the main configuration part in the first tutorial. So what we did, we went to a browser, we went to a website, and in tear down labeled method, we tried to clean up our test, and we tried to quit the browser. So now let's create another class here. Create a just right click on your project in solution explorer, go to add, go to existing project, new item. Oh, you should go to your solution and then add. Here you'll see one option of class, so just add the class, and I'll name it as basics d2, and in this class we'll try to use the 10 most basic commands of Selenium, and we'll try to understand the logic behind it and how to start working with Selenium. Okay, so again I'm going to mark it as test fixture because this is our test class, and here we'll write some test cases. Okay, test fixture is to identify NUnit that this class is a test class and there are some test methods inside it. Okay, so for this I have imported this line of code, this namespace. Now what we need to do is just think of a real-time example that what you'll do, what is the step of performing any activity on any website. So here for example we are taking the reference of Gmail. We'll have a look of it and we'll try to automate some activities over that. Okay, so what shall be the first activity? The first activity is to navigate to a URL. No, then the first step should be to launch a browser. Okay, so what we did earlier, we initialized iWebDriver. We created an instance of iWebDriver globally. Okay, and then what we did, we initialized this driver. We initialized this driver instance, this driver object with the new Firefox driver. Driver is equals to new Firefox driver. You can do it in one line as well, but there is a reason behind it and then I'll explain later. So for the time being, let's keep it only one. Keep it in one line. Later I'll describe that how to what is the use of creating an object iWebDriver here and using and initializing that driver instance somewhere else. Okay, so just import the commands, import the namespaces for it. And if you want to write the code first and then if you want to import the namespaces for those keywords, then it is a bit tricky because you have to take care of case sensitivity as well. So better would be to remember the namespaces and then use it so that you can get a suggestion and you can just simply hit over that. Okay, so actually I remember this, so I am writing it with keeping their case sensitivity in mind. Right click, go to resolve and use their namespaces. Okay, so this line of code will launch a new browser. What's next? The next step should be to navigate to a website. Okay, so how will you do that? Now we'll have to use this driver instance everywhere whenever you want to perform any activity on the page. Okay, so now we'll write rest of our codes in a method. I'm going to name it as basic tests. Okay, so because if you have initialized it here, you won't be able to perform any action inside the class body. You will have to write those code inside a method body. Okay, so driver, and now what I'm going to do is we are going to navigate to a website. Okay, so write the code driver.navigate. You'll find one option, go to URL. And actually if you see, whenever you place the parenthesis after go to URL, you'll get some suggestion here that it accepts a string value and it should be a URL. So you will have to pass the URL inside double quotes. Okay, and make sure that whenever you enter any URL, it should be prefixed with http://. Okay, so here we are going to navigate to gmail.com. Okay, so what we did, we initialized a driver instance. We created a driver instance and initialized it with Firefox driver. And in next step, what we did, we are trying to navigate to a website. Okay, these are the two steps, and I'll make a note of it here as well parallelly so that you can refer it at the end of this video. Initialization of Firefox driver, that we did. Navigate to URL, navigate function we have used. There are some other functions of navigate that you can try by yourself, and those are navigate dot back and same way dot refresh and dot forward. Okay, so you can practice it at your end. I'm just going to use a function navigate dot go to URL. Okay, so there are some other functions of navigate. First, I'm using navigate.goToURL. You'll have to practice navigate.back to go on the back page of your website. .refresh to reload the page, and .forward to go on the forward page of the that you have already visited. Okay, so what we did, we have launched the browser and we have we have visited a website. Okay, so we have to take care of, as we are following it inside NUnit framework, so we'll have to mark it as test. Okay, and there should be a setup attribute as well, so we'll have to write one more thing: public void setup, and we have to label it with setup attribute. In Java we call it as annotations, and in C# we call it as attributes. Okay, so inside setup what we shall do is, actually we shall perform all the basic activities that we want to perform before starting a test case execution. So what shall be there, like we have created an instance of iWeb driver. Then if you are creating it here, then you should install it. You shouldn't install it here, you shouldn't initialize it here. For initialization it should be inside the setup method. So driver is equals to new Firefox driver, and let the driver here, creation of the driver and the initialization of it shall be there, and you will be initializing it with Firefox driver in the setup method. Okay, and after that what happens when you open driver, it opens a Firefox, it launches Firefox browser in a specific size, so you'll have to make it into full width, and for that there is a code driver.manage.window.maximize, and this is how we'll be trying to write our test cases. We'll try to link our methods and classes inside like this method only. This is the architecture of Selenium, and that I'll cover later. Okay, so what we did, we initialized the driver, we have navigated to a browser, and after navigation what shall be there, we need to find some of the elements there on the web page. So I'll say driver.find element. So as soon as you type find, you'll see that there are two options: find element and find elements. Okay, so these two methods have different actions and the different statements to perform. So in case if you want to get a list of some element, then you will be using find elements, and if you want to find any particular one element on the page, in that case you will have to use find element. Okay, so for the time being we are going to use only find element. So once you type this driver.find element, use the parenthesis, and as soon as you do it, you will see that in suggestion it asks for by class. Okay, so you will have to use by and put a dot. So as soon as you instruct that find element, that we have to find one element by, so it asks that by giving a list of it, that these are the locators and using which you can find element on the web page. So you can use either class name, CSS selector, equals ID, link text, name, partial link text, reference equals tag name, and XPath, and out of which ID is the most preferable, and then CSS selector, and then XPath. Well, there is nothing, there is no logic to prove it, but this is how, if you're going in any interview, then you will have to answer that this is the only preference given to the locators. Okay, because ID used to be common throughout the page. It should be unique, not common. It should be unique throughout the page, so most preferably you should use the ID. And CSS selector and XPath gives you more flexibility, so later we'll see that how to use those flexibilities into your project, but for the time being we shall use any ID, any locator, and we shall proceed ahead with the test case execution. Okay, so as soon as you visit gmail.com, suppose we have to find this text box. Okay, so I just start with my Firebug. Firebug is a plugin for Firefox, and to work with on Firebug you will have to install one more plugin called Firepath. So that Firepath is a plugin for Firebug and Firebug is a plugin for Firefox. Okay, so for what we are going to perform on this page is we are going to locate this particular text box, and here we'll try to enter some values. Okay, so I just clicked on this inspect element, hover your mouse over it and just hit enter. So here you will get an you'll get a look of the DOM, the document object model or the page model. So you can see here that the label of this box is input and the ID of it is email, and that value of that ID is email. Okay, so based on this ID the XPath has been created by Firebug. Okay, so for the time being we are not going into depth of it, but we'll keep using it as it gives to us. So what we are getting from there, we are getting the XPath. Okay, so while writing XPath, just take care of naming and case sensitivity, that X and P is in capitals. Put a parenthesis again. Okay, and here you will have to pass a string of XPath. If you go into suggestion, you'll see that there is a string, it accepts only string. So what you have copied from there, you'll have to pass it into double quote, and then Trevor will be able to find that element. Okay, and what you actually want to perform on that, you want to perform some activity called type or send keys in the language of Selenium. So you are going to type something into that particular text box. Okay, so that is your fourth step in this case, because third step was to find an element on the web page. So I'll write it here, find element on web page. Okay, what is the fourth step? In fourth step we are going to see that how to type into that how to type somewhere. Okay, or first let's see how to click into that element. Okay, clicking will be performed on this next button. So let's see how to type. And for this we have to use send keys command. Okay, so now our code has understood that how to find that particular element, and now to type we have to just put a dot and type send keys. Okay, so this till the code till here will try to find that element on the web page, and now send keys will try to perform some action of typing any value inside the input thing. Okay, so whenever you are going to use send keys, make sure that if you inspect that element, the tab that particular web element is a type of input element. Okay, else you won't be able to use your send keys command. Okay, so now here I'm going to use my current email ID. Okay, so this is what it will try to type there. Okay, so what shall be the next step? As soon as you type here, you should be able to click on next. So let's try to find this particular next button, and here it gives the XPath of next button. Let's use it here, driver dot find element by XPath, and in parenthesis put double quotes, and inside double quote put the XPath that you have copied from Firebug. And to click, it's just that you have to type command click. Okay, so that is how you will be able to click on any element. You will have to use click method. Okay, so click command was our next thing. Okay, so almost we have completed one piece of journey. So we'll try to run this and we'll try to see that what it does actually. So now I'm going to write our last attribute of this test fixture, which is tear down. And inside tear down, what we'll try to do, we'll try to wait for some time, and then we'll try to close the browser. Public void tear down. teardown will be executed once a test case has been executed. So what we did here, we'll try to wait for some time so that we can investigate what has happened there. Okay, so just use thread.sleep and put the value in milliseconds, and then try to driver dot quit. Okay, thread is not recognized. Just right click over it and click on resolve, and then using system dot threading. Okay, so now we're done with the recording part. Let's run it and let's try to see that what actually it performs. Okay, so to get a clearer understanding, what we'll try to run it in debug mode. Okay, so that we can just see a step-by-step activity, and we can try to understand what we did in this case. Okay, just right click and debug test, and before that put a breakpoint, otherwise it will keep running the program. In this case, what we have did, we have created a new instance of Firefox. We have used the command navigate. We tried to find particular elements. We tried to type some values there in the text box using syndicate, and we tried to click on a button. Okay, so here you can see, as where I put it this breakpoint, the cursor is waiting there for my instruction for further execution of the case. So just press F10 and you will be able to process ahead line by line. Okay, so here what it is doing here, it is initializing the driver with new Firefox driver. Again put F10. Actually it's performing in the background. I'll open that window. Yeah. Okay, so first line executed, driver is equal to new Firefox driver, and it launched this web browser in a specific size. So what is our next step? Next step is to manage and let the window maximize its size. Okay, so press F10 and you'll see that the window has maximized. Okay, so this was the two things that we did inside the setup method, inside the setup attribute. And now what we are going to do, we are going to start execution of our test method, the actual test method. Okay, so next step is to instruct driver to navigate to gmail.com. Okay, so let's see how it goes. So here you can see that the browser has visited gmail.com, and now what shall be the next step? Next step is to find email this attribute, this element on the web page, and type this value that we have written inside send keys. Press F10 and let's see. Yeah, it does. It has typed here Pankaj Dubey K, and now the next step is to click on the button. So press F10 and it clicked on that button, and here it is the new window where it asks for password. Okay, so just press F10 and it will go inside the teardown method, and it will sleep for 5 seconds, and then it will try to close the browser. Press F10. By mistake I pressed F9. Okay, press F10, and if you can see here, your basic test is passed. Okay, so what we did here, I explained it earlier. So there are two other things that we need to understand, which is to get a text. Okay, to get a text, and to wait to put the implicit and explicit weight inside your test program. Okay, so to use that, what we'll try to do, as soon as your browser clicks on the next, it shows you some text. Okay, so now what we have to do, we have to get this text. How to get this text? We'll have to find the locator of this label, and then we'll try to get a text what is written here inside our string. Okay,